I was looking for some course or some education which enables me to strategically put my conversations across. And that's why I started looking for some course or some education which allows me to do that. I further narrowed down onto an MBA program, and I considered various institutions, not only in India, but outside India as well. The benefit that I realized with an executive MBA at this stretch of my career is so I gave all of those thoughts. I scribbled my notes. I mean, after a long time, I believe that I went down to pick up a notebook and a pen and started noting down this. In the first few tranches, I did not even discard any of the thoughts. So I just literally noted down each and everything. And then I kept on in further iterations. I kept on, refining. One of the great things that I liked about ISB Mantra's mock interviews were the feedback is right there and then. So it is like the interview happens and then the candidate is given the feedback. And then the subsequent mock interview which happens, that of course covers you from different perspective, but also in a softer manner tries to assess how is a candidate's progress against the feedbacks which have been shared in the previous mock interviews.
Okay, Sumit, congratulations again for making it to this prestigious program of PGPMAX. And I know how hard you worked to achieve this. So congratulations, and thank you for agreeing to do this chat with us. As discussed, we record the experience of the application to the admit journey, and it comes very helpful, especially to students who are planning to do a similar course at ISB.
Yeah.
Okay, it helped them to plan their journey better. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks a lot, Vikram. Thank you.
Thanks. Sumit, let's start with the discussion. And so what made you decide to pursue an executive MBA program? And did you consider any other program before deciding to start this?
Okay, so Vikram, I have overall 17 plus years of work experience in IT, and that spans across multiple domains. So I've worked extensively in telecommunication in the software side. And then just a few years back, about 5 or 6 years back, I decided to switch over to uh, financial or the fin insurance sector. So I've worked across geographies and I've worked across roles which span across the breadth of an organization as well as depth of an organization. Now, having such an extensive experience, especially across geographies, I was looking for some course or some education that could catalyze my exploration of diversified roles within the technology sector. So I was looking something which enables me to make larger impact towards the broader software industry, not only specific to my core area of function. Um, to simplify further, I was looking for something where, when I get into discussions in my current role as well with my colleagues, which are or who are into business strategy or who are into the competition management, innovation leadership, or on the financial sides from the finance team, I was looking for some course or some education which enables me to strategically put my conversations across. And that's why I started looking for some course or some education which allows me to do that. I further narrowed down onto an MBA program, and I considered various institutions, not only in India, but outside India as well. I zeroed down on ISB PGPMAX program. The benefit that I realized with an executive MBA at this stretch of my career is particularly with PGPMAX, if I say that it offers a cohort of industry experts. It has a potent professional network, a knowledge sharing opportunity across industries. Um, and this cross-functional learning, I believe, will help me to apply the best practices, learning from across domains, and then applying them into the software programs. So yes, I considered other institutions, other programs as well. Back in 2018, I had joined executive education offered by IIM Bangalore, but after After joining it for 4 months, I had to leave it midway because of my professional commitment. So I am Bangalore. I was again considering that in 2024, 2023. Apart from that, I considered Kellogg. It offers a good mix of executive education programs. There is a program around the leadership development offered by INSEAD in India as well. So I
Yes.
considered that program as well. Yeah.
All right, great. And having worked for 17 years and very recently shifting into fin insurance domain,
Yeah.
what do you think worked in your favor in this whole
So I
process?
think based on my preparation, because I spent considerable time to prepare for my application, I did not want to wait for another year to be admitted to an MBA. So it was very clear to me that if I want to do an MBA, and if this is a course which I want to do to basically go back to the learning module, which I did many years back during my graduation, and then reskill myself based on the whatever changes have happened in the industry, uh, more rapidly so in the recent times. One thing which I believe definitely helped me was my experience across multiple domains,
Mhm.
my experience across multiple geographies. I was blessed to have an extensive experience across horizontal as well as lateral roles in my organizations which I worked with, and then of course I worked with depth and breadth of people. So I got an opportunity to work from the very basic, which is the start of the software industry, from the QAs to the software engineers to the architects and up to the level of C-level executives. So I believe that diversified role, which is across the breadth and the depth of an organization, that helped me to uh, position myself slightly differently from probably other applicants.
Great. And having worked in multiple geographies and this diverse experience, what were the key focus areas in terms of your approach to building your application form?
So, of course, I was looking for something where I needed to go back. So it was not like that, okay, today I decided that, okay, I want to apply for PGPMAX and straight away get into the application. I looked for what are the different requirements for you to apply to this prestigious institution. And then I did a lot of thought work in the background. So I looked at, because it's a vast experience. When I say across geographies, it is not only that you work across work geography or another geography for a few months. You there are multiple elements involved. There are multiple cultures involved. There are multiple people involved. There are multiple what do you say different challenges which are involved. Then you have to coordinate across the teams across multiple geographies as well. So I did a lot of thought work. One thing which I definitely did is to start early and give attention to the details and time to my application. So I started thinking in the background and started doing some scribbling my notes around what are the achievements in these 17 plus years of experiences. What are the cultural experiences that I have experienced across different geographies? What are the challenges that I face? And of course, all these make part of your application to ISB. So I gave all of those thoughts. I scribbled my notes. I definitely, I mean, after a long, long time, I believe that I
Mhm.
went down to pick up a notebook and a pen and started noting down this. In the first few tranches, I did not even discard any of the thoughts. So I just literally noted down each and everything, and then I kept on in further iterations. I kept on refining those. So obviously there were few which I thought that, okay, maybe good to let go of in interest of the word count, in interest of the time, in interest of the word constraints that your application applies to. And then of course one important factor as well is to be honest in your application, because at one or the other state at another level, you will be gauged about whether you are really being honest in your application or not. Um, so as I said, I did multiple iterations. I was honest in my application. I jolted down all the experiences that I have had across geographies and cultures, across different teams, across different levels of the team. My challenges of working with different C-level executives across functions, strategically thinking about what differentiates me. So one of the important things which I also did in the application is to start thinking about, okay, if I am applying to this course, obviously there are, I assumed, thousands and millions of more people who are pretty much like me. So that was one of the constructive way where I kind of became my own critic that, okay, how do I position myself slightly differently from other applicants? And then one of the important things that I also did was not to shy away from talking to people or
Mm.
seeking their guidance or
Yeah.
opinion. So I
Yeah.
spoke to people. I had friends who recently got, who completed their executive education from Kellogg as well. So I spoke with them, and I sought guidance from them on various at various stages of my application.
Excellent. Excellent. One very important takeaway from your answer, the latest answer, Sumit, is that as they say, the devil lies in the details. So till you think that
Exactly.
you have everything sorted out and it's all in the head, it looks good. But it's only when you
Yeah.
actually pull out pen and a paper and start writing all the details that when you start realizing that, how much of it is there and how much more you have to dig in to get more information out about yourself.
Very true, Vikram. Yeah.
Great, great. And, so that's when we got in touch during your research. And
Yep.
so while building your application, you have worked with us where you
Yep.
were given some kind of inputs on preparing your
Yes.
application. So how, this information or the inputs which you received were of a value and help to you?
Okay, so I must say that ISB Mantra definitely brought in a different angle in my preparation, and I'll elaborate a little bit into that, right? So, of course, as I said, that I prepared my notes, I wrote down whatever came to my mind, and then did multiple iterations, and that's when I thought that okay, I need to, invite ISB Mantra as my guidance, as my guide or as a mentor during my application. One of the things which was really key when I retrospect into the entire process is that the various, at various points or at different points, I was helped with how to best articulate myself. Now, what we do in IT industry is, of course, we we tend to explain ourselves probably at times in much more detail than required, or at times not in as much detail as required. So, where to bring that right mix is what ISP Mantra team, while preparing my application, helped me. Of course, one of the very important things is things is that when you apply for an application, you have a word constraint limit or one word constraints. So, for example, you will be asked to write an essay where you have to summarize um, a whole wider topic, and in my case, 17 plus years of experience in just 150 words. Now, 150 words may sound like, oh, it's enough, but at times it is not, right?
Yeah.
So that's where how to best articulate myself within the constraints of word limits. That's where the ISP Mantra team helped me. The second thing as well is, of course, I did multiple iterations. So, for example, let's assume in the beginning I had say 20 pointers, and then I refined them into 15 pointers, iteratively into 12 pointers. The team helped me what is worth highlighting and what is worth giving away, right? So, or just leaving out of the application. So it is the right third person's outlook when you, so for example, what I do may sound really fantastic to me or may not sound that really fantastic to me, but when I explain it to the third person really is the best judge of what is worth articulating or what is worth highlighting and what is not. So that's where the ISP Mantra team really really helped me, and I'm really thankful to them.
And what we really like to work with you, Sumit, is that you came with a very open mindset and you were happy to receive feedbacks and inputs, and you accommodated them quite nice.
Thanks a lot, Vikram. Thank you.
That's it. And how much time did ISB give you to prepare for the interview?
So I received, I believe, I received an email with 1 week or approximately 1 week of lead time before my actual interview
Hmm.
happened.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right, 1 week. And so you went through the ISB interview. What were the key areas of discussion during your interview?
Okay, so first of all, let me go a little bit or touch a little bit about the entire interview experience.
Yes.
One thing that I must say is the interview was to an extent different from what I was anticipating all through this application process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was an extremely candid interview. Likewise, every time, right, you may be as confident as you are required to be, but then there are a little bit of jitters just before the interview. So it
Right.
was very candid. There were two members in the panel, and they did everything to make me feel comfortable. So it's not a stress interview. It is a very well structured interview. They talk to you very candidly. They do everything to make you feel welcome as well as to make you feel comfortable. Their intent is to know who you really are within that stipulated time period. Another thing is they very well review your profile ahead of the interview. So it's not like the typical interviews where while they have asked you a question and you're answering, then they're flipping the pages and they're trying to go through your application at that time. The third thing is, of course, they cover the depth as well as breadth of your profile. So, for example, there are three essays which you write as part of your application. They're well through that. They're well through your resume, and the whole interview was around that. So obviously during the interview they asked a couple of questions which were sort of hypothetical scenarios, which were more like, okay, how you will or how you dealt with in such a circumstance, had you come across such a circumstance or such an opportunity in your career. So there were a few of those hypothetical scenario based questions, but otherwise overall the interview was around the profile and the essay. So they will ask you that, for me particularly, they asked about, okay, you have worked across roles, you have worked across C-level execs, you have worked across geographies. What are the challenges that you have faced, which is anyways part of the your essay as well as part of the application. So they ask you about elaborating that. So one thing is that you have written the essay, but then another thing is to elaborate and to explain the entire scenario, on what are the challenges that you faced, what were your strengths, what were your weaknesses, how you dealt with that particular challenge, and what were the after effects or what were the results when you came out of that particular situation. So
Mhm.
that was the entire experience of the interview, and it was, I mean, I must say, I know that I'm repeating it, but yes, it was extremely candid. The panel made absolutely sure that they make the candidate extremely comfortable, well grounded, settled during the interview.
Nice. Great to hear that, Sumit. And Sumit, how many were there in the panel?
There were two. There were
There
two
were two
panel members.
panel
Yeah,
members. And were they PGP Max alums?
they were PGP PAX alums.
Right.
That's another good thing. It's sort of that, who does this prestigious course
Hmm.
is they ensure that the alums are part of the selection
Yes.
process.
Yes.
So that's a very good thing. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know how many institutions globally adopt this model. Um, but another thing is, if I may just quote during the interview, the panel members realized that even though they both are from PGPMAX, um, and they have done it at different, not they were not part of the
Right.
same cohort. They met each other during the interviewing process, and they themselves discussed so many strategic, initiatives and things just before my interview that they decided, and they were sharing it with me that this is the alumnus power of ISB, that after
Right.
this interview is done, we definitely would catch up, and
Yeah.
we would like to share ideas with each other.
Great. Great. And very soon you will also find in the similar shoes after you have
Yeah,
finished.
yeah, yeah. I'm excited to.
And Sumit, you also went through, mock interview sessions with us. So, how did these
Yes.
different sessions help you to, doing your actual interview? I mean, how did the
So
thought process changed through these sessions?
yeah, so one thing, Vikram, I would like to correct. I think I'm just thinking at the back of my head. I did not have 1 week to prepare for the actual interview. I think from the date when I received the email, the actual interview is only about 3 or 4 days, 3 days at the best.
Hmm.
3 days later. Um,
Right.
So yes, all the mock interviews happened in between, and I think I had about 5 to 6 mock interviews. I received, on the positive side, I received a good feedback that, as you said on this call as well, that I'm open to feedback, and I sounded confident during the interview. I did not fluff anywhere in my application, because
Very important.
during the mock interviews as well, I was able to carry through the entire conversation, the different questions which were asked of me. But how these mock interviews helped me personally were, they acted as catalyst to boosting the confidence.
Mm.
So as I said earlier during this conversation, what happens is when you try to really want to, as in my case, I did not want to wait for another year. When I decided that, what, I need to do some course or some education, a formal education, to reskill myself or to upskill myself, I did not want to wait for another year. So just before you enter an interview, obviously you have all the thoughts going at the back of your head. And doesn't matter how confident you are, you have a little bit of jitter in there, right? So these mock interviews, they definitely helped as a confidence building measure. So you go through these multiple interviews, there are different kinds of questions, and every mock interview member or the interviewee, they come with a different persona. So they rigor that the interview process covers you from all the aspects. So it's not like, the standard set of questions, and hypothetically, let's assume one goes through 5 or 6 different mock interviews. It does not mean that you have the repeated set of questions in all the 5 or 6 questions.
Mm.
Are the different kind of strategic areas on which those are focusing. So that's where the mock interview definitely helped me. One good thing is that I targeted, or I appeared for all of these mock interviews without, or not thinking that these are mock interviews, but rather considering these to be the actual interviews. Um, One of the great things that I liked about ISB Mantra's mock interviews were, the feedback is right there and then. So it is like the interview happens, and then the candidate is given the feedback. And then the subsequent mock interview, which happens, that of course covers you from different perspective, but also, in a softer manner, tries to assess how is a candidate's progress against the feedbacks which have been shared in the previous mock interviews. So every mock interview is followed by a feedback session, and that is really good, because when you enter into the next mock interview, you know what are your areas, or what are the core strengths, what are the core weaknesses, what are the areas where you need to improve, where are the areas where you need to elaborate further, where are the areas where you need to tone down a little bit, and to not go too much in detail. So that's here. I believe, if I have to summarize this, it was a good 360-degree preparation when it comes to appearing for an actual interview for ISB.
Thank you so much. So that's essentially what we try to do in our mock interview. So there is no cheat sheet that these are the 5 questions they will definitely ask, and you have to be prepared for it. And also the the advantage of getting interviewed by different set of people is it prepares you for a situation where any kind of question which you have thought or not have thought about, you should be able to perceive it and answer them with confidence. That was the
Definitely.
whole purpose. So great.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, Sumit, what is your advice to a prospective PGP Max applicant, especially those who come from a similar background? And let me tell you,
Mhm.
which also you will be aware that many applicants are from IT background who generally apply to these programs. So any
Yeah.
inputs for them will go a long way.
No, certainly. So I would say, so let me articulate it in these 5 pointers, and these are the 5 pointers which, when I was preparing my application on the very first day, I had noted these down as well as the 5 pillars. The first one is to start early. Just to share my experience, when I was speaking with the admissions office of various institutions and courses, um, and just for the benefit of everybody, it was not ISB PGPMAX program. I was speaking with the admissions office of another course, which is also an executive education program from ISB. So I was speaking with the admissions officer both the courses. Um, the first cutoff date was the very next day, and I was encouraged that why don't you rush through your application and apply it? And I sort of decided I will not do that because I wanted to start early, but at the same time, I wanted to give attention to details and to write time my application. So the first pointer would be to start early, give attention to details, time your application, ensure that you have enough time so that you have rigored through your application multiple times, right? The second one is be honest in your application. Don't try to um, don't try to articulate, or don't try to write down, or don't try to uh, position somebody else's or your colleague's experience or something that you may have experienced as your own experience. So that is extremely important, because in the entire process, the people who are sitting out there in the panel, they very well understand how well you are able to elaborate or articulate your experience. So be honest in your application. The third one is do multiple iterations of an application, as I've already covered in the first point. The fourth one is think strategically on what differentiates you from the crowd. So that's what I covered earlier in this conversation as well. Um, Whenever people specifically from IT are applying, don't think that you are the only applicant. Think that thousands or millions of other people are also applying to this program. So ensure that you are able to very clearly write down what are your strengths, which differentiate you from rest of the uh, crowd or rest of the applicants in the program. And the last one is, as I said, don't shy away from talking to people. Don't shy away from seeking their guidance or opinion. In IT, we generally have this thing that we lose the contact with our colleagues, right? So for example, I may have worked with somebody, say, 10 years back, and I may not still be in touch with them. So what I did not shy away from picking up the phone and then trying to reach out to that person on LinkedIn or getting their WhatsApp number. Somebody is in Europe, somebody is in US. I spoke with them and sought their opinions, sought their guidance as well. So don't shy away from that. Because if you shy away, of course, if you get the admit, there is no place of being shy out there. So I
Correct.
mean, these are the 5 pointers that I followed during my application. I would say it's the same for everybody out there to follow as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pumit, again. Really appreciate taking out your time. I know how you're busy, how your schedule is busy. So really
Thanks a
appreciate
lot, Vikram.
valuable thoughts. Thank you so much
Thanks a
again.
lot,
We
Vikram.
wish
Thank
you
you.
all the
You take
best.
care. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.